Okay, we're middle of Tanya on page Hey, Parak Aleph. I'm talking to the top, it's page Hey. The last thing we're learning that there's 5 types of people. First, I'll ask a contradiction. In the Gemara Nida that he quoted, it says, even if everybody tells you you're a Tzadik, you should appear to yourself as if you're a Rasha, you're wicked. So he asked the question. Number one, it says in Pirkei Avos, don't be a wicked person in your own eyes. Secondly, he says it logically doesn't make sense. If you're going to care about it, you're going to get depressed. You don't care about it, you come to lightheadedness. So what does it mean? So the Alter Rebbe starts explaining, we find in the Gemara there's 5 types of people. Tzadik v'ralei, Tzadik v'tevlei, Rasha v'tevlei, Rasha v'ralei, Beinoni. Okay? The 5 levels of people. Now the Rebbe starts explaining that the Gemara says Tzadik v'tevlei simply means a Tzadik that has it good physically. He has a lot of money. He's comfortable. He's well off. He's healthy. Tzadik v'ralei means a tzaddik that doesn't have it so good. That's what the simple meaning of the words are. Now, the Rebbe quotes the Zohar that says, what does it mean? Tzaddik v'ralei. It means a tzaddik v'ra that has a little bit of evil, but loy, it's subjugated and bottled to him. And we started explaining last week, we jumped the gun a little bit, and we said the definition of a tzaddik is one, and Dr. Rebbe is going to elaborate on this now, is not one that has 90% mitzvahs and 10% averis. That person is a rasha. The person that doesn't sin at all in thought, speech, and action is known as the Beinoni. He doesn't sin at all, never. The tzaddik is one that kills the Yetzer Hara, or the higher level of the tzaddik is one that transforms the Yetzer Hara to the Yetzer Tov. And this we're up to now. He says like this, the Gemara in the middle of the page, if you have a Tanya and you're following in the Tanya, the Gemara say, Perik Test, the Brachas, the Gemara at the end of the 9th chapter of Brachas says the following, Tzadikim, Yetzer Tov Shoftim. The Tzadikim, the Gemara says, are judged by the Yetzer Tov. The Shoyim, Yetzer Hara Shoftim. Who judges the Rasha? Simply, who controls the Rasha? The Yetzer Hara. Beinonim is intermediary people, the 5th level of a person. Zev is Shoftim. The Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara judging. So the Gemara continues. Amar Rabba, the famous sage Rabba, said, Kagain ano Beinoni. You want to now know an example of a Beinoni? That's me. So Rabbi said, if you want to know who is a Beinoni, that's me. That's what Rabbi said. Amalei Abaye, so his student Abaye, who happened to be also his nephew, who was raised in Rabbi's house, said to his uncle, Leishavik marchai lochol beria. You're not letting anybody live. You're not letting it, by you being a Beinoni, you can't say that because then we're all dead. Why? There's a few explanations. Rabba, as the Alter Rebbe is going to say, was the greatest man in his time. The Malach HaMavet couldn't even kill him. The Alter Rebbe is going to bring down soon. So Abaye said this to Rabba, if you're a Beinoni, so what are we? A Rasha. And in Russia, the Gemara says, even when they're alive, they're called dead. Secondly, another explanation of this is, every generation needs one tzaddik in whose merit the entire generation exists. That person was Rabbah. So Abaye said to Rabbah, if you're not the tzaddik, if you're only a Beinoni, so we have no tzaddik in our generation to keep us going. Okay, so this is what the Gemara says. So the Alter Rebbe says, to understand what does this mean? What does it mean that a tzaddik is judged by the Yetzer Tov, a Rasha is judged by the Yetzer Hara, and a Beinoni, the intermediate person, is judged by both? Like, what does that mean? And also, Gam Lahav and Masha Amar Iyuv, the Gemara in Bava quotes Iyuv, the famous Job Iyuv, that said, "Beina shaleilam berasa tzadikim V'rasa Rishoyim. The Gemara quotes that Eve said, God, Hashem, you created tzaddikim and you created Rishoyim. Okay, that's what the Gemara says Eve said. So the Alter Rebbe says 1 minute. There's another Gemara that says the following. Before a person is born, a malach comes and tells him, this person is going to be rich, poor, ugly, beautiful, short, tall, fat, skinny, everything about the person. One thing the malach doesn't tell the person, whether he's going to be a tzaddik or a rasha. Why? Because that's up to us, not up to Hashem. We have free choice. Whether we're rich or poor, whether we're big or small, whether we're smart or not so smart, that's all from Hashem. So God can create us smart, not smart, big, small, whatever. But a tzaddik or a rasha, God doesn't create. We become the tzaddik or the rasha. It's up to us. We have free choice. So the Alter Rebbe is asking, how can Eve say, Hashem, you created tzaddikim, you created rishoyim? Hashem didn't. The malach doesn't say tzaddik v'rasha, whether you're going to be a tzaddik or a rasha, because that's not up to Hashem, that's up to us. So the Alter Rebbe says, how can the Gemara say Eve said, God, Hashem, you created tzaddikim, you created rishoyim? It's not true. Hashem doesn't say that. Hashem didn't create us that way. And then he says like this, V'gam, we'll summarize all the questions soon. V'gam, lahaven mohus madrigas habeinoni. The Alter Rebbe said, we need to understand, what is this Beinoni guy? Who is this Beinoni? He says, V'vadai, eina machsa zokius u'machsa avenis. The Alter Rebbe says, one thing is for sure. Normally, defined Beinoni is 50% good, 50% bad. Tzadik, 75% good, 25% bad. Russia, 75% bad, 25% good. And a Beinoni is 50-50. The Rebbe says that can't be. There's no way Beinoni can mean 50-50. Why? How can Rabba make a mistake to say that he's a Beinoni? If a Beinoni means 50% mitzvahs and 50% avedas, how could Rabbi come along and say he's a Beinoni? V'neidat's known, his mouth never stopped learning. Rabbi's mouth never stopped learning to the extent even the Malach HaMavis couldn't get him. The Gemara tells the whole story in Bava Metzia. Rabba, interestingly, was the greatest sage of his generation. He died when he was 40. Rabba passed away at 40. So many decrees that we have today in halacha came from Rabba. Rabba was 40 years old when he passed away. It came the time for Rabba to pass away. Hashem sent the Malach HaMavis to kill him, to take him. He couldn't. Rabba, the same story with David HaMelech. He was so busy learning, the Malach HaMavis couldn't kill him. So he had to make him that the tree broke and he had to walk out and he tripped and he fell and for a second he stopped learning and the Malach HaMavis was able to kill him. So the Alter Rebbe is asking, Rabba, who says on himself he's a Beinoni, obviously Rabba was a tzaddik. There's no question. But if a Beinoni means 50-50, how in the world can Rabba say he's a Beinoni? He was so great that the Malach HaMavis couldn't even kill him. And so how can Rabba make a mistake that, hey, but guys, I'm a 50% sinner? How could that be? Somebody can come along and say, okay, he was humble. Humility. He says, I'm a Beinoni. He was really a tzaddik, but he was humble. So he says, okay, guys, I'm a Beinoni. So Chassidus explained that cannot be. Why? Because humility doesn't mean lying. For instance, if somebody asks you, do you keep kosher? and you say, yeah, that's not gaiva, that's not haughtiness. And if you do and you want to be humble and you say no, you're actually a liar. Somebody asks you, Hashem Shabbos, and you want to be humble, he said, no, I'm not. That's a lie. That's not what humility means. And humility doesn't mean that you say, oh, I'm a big sinner. It's a moron. It's a moron saying that if they don't. So Chassidus explains what does humility mean. And we learned this many times in the classes. The Torah says in Parshas Baleischa, Moshe was the most humble person that ever lived. Anav Ma'ed Mikol Ha'adam Asher Pnei Adam. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person that ever lived. If somebody asked Moshe Rabbeinu, who got Torah at Har Sinai? Who received Torah at Har Sinai? And Moshe would say, not me. He would be a liar. Of course, Moshe Rabbeinu said, I did. Who's the leader of the Jewish people? Moshe Rabbeinu would say, me. If he didn't say me, he'd be a liar. If somebody asked, who did Hashem speak to face, panim al panim? If Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say me, he would be a liar. He'd be sinning. How does that reconcile with the concept of humility? So Chassidus explains, and we learned this many times in the classes. Humility doesn't mean false humility. A Jew, and Chassidus demands this from a person. Just like it's mandatory to know your faults, to know what to fix, you need to know your greatnesses and your uniqueness and your talents. If somebody is an artist, they have to know that they are an artist. Because if they say, oh, I'm not such a good artist, I'm a nobody, they are wasting a creation that Hashem created. Hashem made them an artist, which is given to them by Hashem, and they're not doing it. Chassidus explains the following. A person needs to know exactly who they are. So where does humility come into the picture? They should think, and I'll say it and then I'll explain it, that if somebody would be given the same abilities I have, they would be far greater. I know exactly who I am. I know my greatness. Humility is when you come along and you say, and you think, honestly think, if somebody else would be given my talent, somebody else would be given my brain, somebody else would be given my ability to talk, somebody else would be given my ability to dance, whatever it may be, they would be even better. So what does humility mean in different language? I know exactly who I am, but I'm not haughty about it because I really should be better. And therefore, why am I bragging if this is all God-given talents? And somebody else with the same God-given talents would be even better. That's humility. So you can't say Rabbah comes along now. Rabbah was a tzaddik. The Malach HaMavis couldn't even kill him. Rabbah is going to come along and say, okay, guys, I'm a Beinoni, 50-50. Rabbah says that can't be. It's like, do you keep kosher? No. Do you keep Shabbos? No. Do you put on tefillin? No. Do you light Shabbos? No. That's a liar. That's humility. Because humility is, you know exactly who you are. And Moshe Rabbeinu was most humble because Moshe Rabbeinu understood that if he would be, somebody else would be given his abilities, they would even be better. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says a Beinoni cannot mean 50-50, because if that's what it means, there's no way Rabbah can make a mistake to say I'm a Beinoni. When we learn what a Beinoni is and we learn what a Tzadik is, then later on in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe himself says, we can understand why Rabbah made a mistake. Rabbah was really a Tzadik. But Rabbah thought, and I'm going to just say a one-liner and not to explain it yet. Rabbah thought he was a Beinoni whose Yetzer Hara goes to sleep, went to sleep. Not that he killed his Yetzer Hara. Rabbah thought he had a Yetzer Hara, but it was sleeping. So therefore, Rabbah comes along and says, I'm only a Beinoni, I'm not a Tzadik. But the Alter Rebbe asks, A Beinoni, one thing is for sure, he cannot be called 50-50. And then he says even more. And another point why a Beinoni cannot mean 50-50. If a person does a sin, one sin, Nikra Rasha Gomor, he's called a Rasha. There's a din about Eidus, witnesses, to testify, you can't be a sinner. The din is, a guy has one sin even, and he doesn't do tshuva, he's a Rasha. He cannot testify. And then if he does tshuva, he's a Tzadik Gomor. He says like this, it doesn't make sense. If you sin, you're a Rasha. You do tshuva, you're a Tzadik. So how does 50-50 get in there? Now, the Rebbe is just discussing that we must define a Beinoni correctly. It cannot mean what the simple meaning is. It's 50-50, because then how could Rabbi make a mistake? Secondly, the Rebbe says, you do one sin, you're a Rasha. You do tshuva, you're back at Tzadik again. So where does the Beinoni get it? And not only that, he says, the Gemara says, the Rebbe is going to quote the Gemara in Yevamos, that says, even if he transgressed a rabbinic sin, not a biblical sin, a rabbinic sin, Mikra Rashi, he's called a Rasha. Like the Gemara says, Peribezi Yevamos, Perikama Denid. And then he says even more. And not only that, even if you didn't commit a sin yourself, somebody else was sinning, and you had the ability to stop them and to protest it and to stop them from sinning, and you didn't, Nikra Rashi, you're called the Rashi in the paragraph of the Shus in the 6th chapter of the Gemara Shavuos. The Rebbe says, 1 minute. Something's wrong over here. You do one sin, you're a Rasha. You do even a rabbinic sin, you're a Rasha. You can stop somebody else from sinning and you don't, you're a Rasha. So how does a Beinoni get to 50-50? 50-50 would be a Rasha. A big Rasha, in fact. So how could it be? And so therefore, the Rebbe continues, and he says, if even a rabbinic sin makes you a Rasha, even stopping somebody from sinning and you don't, you're a Rasha. How much more so? If a person doesn't do a positive mitzvah, that he's able to do, and he doesn't do it. In other words, Al Rebbe says, even if you're not actively sinning, you're passively sinning by not doing a positive mitzvah. You don't put on tefillin. You don't light Shabbos candles. You're not actively sinning. You're passively sinning. But Al Rebbe says, if a rabbinic sin makes you a Rasha, stopping somebody from sinning and you don't makes you a Rasha, how much more so when a person does not do a positive mitzvah? Like he gives the example, he's able to occupy himself in Torah and he doesn't. Sha'al of Darsha is on the next page of Tanya. That concerning somebody who can learn Torah and doesn't. The Gemara says there's a pasuk in Chumash, Dvar Hashem Baza. He shamed the words of Hashem. He should be cut off. And the Gemara says, what does that refer to? If you're supposed to learn Torah and you don't. By the way, ladies, you should be happy that only applies to men, not to women. Women don't have a mitzvah per se of learning Torah. They have to learn everything they need to know as a nice Yiddish woman. But they don't have a mitzvah 24/7 to learn Torah. And he says, Upshita, it's for sure, the Mikra Rasha Tfei, that the person is called a Rasha more than Ever Issa the Rabbana if he's transgressing only a rabbinic commandment. Vimkain, therefore, he says like this. Al Karchach, we must say, now that ever comes to the conclusion, Habeinani ein bei afilu oven bittul Torah. He doesn't even have the sin of not learning. Why does Alter Rebbe pick this sin? It says in Halacha, no men daven 3 Shemona Esrei a day. Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv. Every day we say Slach Lanu Avinu 3 times. God forgive us. So Halacha says, how much do we sin already? So it says one of the reasons we say Slach Lanu Avinu 3 times a day, because between Shachris and Mincha, between Mincha and Ma'ariv, there were minutes that we were supposed to learn and we didn't. So therefore, it's the most common sin, halacha says, is the sin of bittul Torah. And that's why 3 times a day we say, Slach lo Avinu kechatanu, that God forgive us for our sin. So he says, there's no question. Vim kain al korchach, we must say that, the Rebbe says, Habeinoni ein bayafilu oven bittul Torah, doesn't even have the sin of learning Torah, or of not learning Torah. Umishum hachi tar Rabba ba'atzmei. Therefore, now we can understand why Rabba made a mistake. Made a mistake, he did, because Rabba was a tzaddik. But now at least we can understand why Rabba thought he was a Beinoni. Because a Beinoni, by definition, Alter Rebbe just came to the conclusion, is one who never sins. Not in thought, not in speech, and not in action. That's the definition of a Beinoni. That doesn't mean the Beinoni doesn't get evil thoughts in the head because he has a Yetzer Hara, he has a Nefesh Abamis. The Tzadik killed it, the Beinoni didn't kill it. The Beinoni has a full-forced Yetzer Hara and Nefesh Abamis. Very, very powerful. But as soon as the evil thought comes in, he doesn't invite it in for tea and cake. He throws it out the second it comes in. That's what a Beinoni does. A Beinoni never sins. The Alter Rebbe is going to say later in Tanya, if a person willingly entertains an evil thought, they're automatically a Rasha until they do tshuva. So therefore, what is the definition of a Beinoni? The Alter Rebbe says, one thing we know for sure, it's not 50-50. A Beinoni, by definition, means somebody who doesn't sin. He doesn't sin the law, the sin of not learning Torah. He doesn't sin biblical. He doesn't sin rabbinic. He doesn't even not protest somebody that he can stop from sinning. That's not a Beinoni. A Beinoni is one that doesn't sin thought, speech, and action. If that's what a Beinoni is, now we can understand why Rabba made a mistake to think that he's a Beinoni and not a tzaddik. Again, in reality, Rabba was a tzaddik gomor of Tanya, a complete tzaddik. That not only did he kill the Yetzer Hara, he transformed the Yetzer Hara to Yetzer Torah. But based on this, we can understand why Rabba made a mistake.
But he wasn't even a Beinoni.
He wasn't a Beinoni, he was a tzaddik.
Right.
But at least we can understand why Rabbi said, I'm a Beinoni. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so now the Alter Rebbe asks a question like this. He asks a question from like worldly general sayings. This that we say normally in the world. Machsa mikra Beinoni. In other words, like this. A lot of people in the world say the following. 50-50 is called the Beinoni. V'reig Zochias, more mitzvahs than sins. Mikra Tzadik is called the Tzadik. The Alter Rebbe says, the way we defining a Beinoni is not the normal language of people. Normal language of people, you say, he's an in-between person. That means 50-50. Tzadik, 75-25. Russia, 25 mitzvahs, 75 avedas. He said, but that contradicts to what we just said. So the Alter Rebbe says, it's not a problem. Shem HaMushal, it's only sort of literally means a borrowed name, meaning it's an adjective, as far as reward and punishment. In other words, when you say, to give an example, when you say somebody is a good person, that doesn't mean they have no bad. When you say somebody is a bad person, that doesn't mean they have no good. It means, generally speaking, he's a good person. Generally speaking, is a bad person. Generally speaking, is 50-50. But vishaniden acharube, because normally a person is generally judged, like we said, you say a person is a good person. That doesn't mean it. He's judged by the majority. Umikra tzadik bedinai, and he's called in a court case, so to speak. Is this person a good person or a bad person? So you say, okay, he's a good person because he has more good than bad. But the Alter Rebbe says, if you want to be realistic, and the true definition of milas umadregas chalukes tzadikim ubeinim, you want to know the real definition, not what people define a tzaddik in Russia. You want to know the real definition of a tzaddik and a beinoni in Russia. Ahmed Azal, the Gemara says, he quoted it before, tzaddikim yetzetev sheftam. The tzaddikim are governed, judged by the Yetzirah, by the Yetzetev. Shenema libi cholul bekirbi. The Gemara says, that brings down this pasuk about a tzaddik. The Gemara says, why is a tzaddik judged by his Yetzetev? That means he has one judge. The Yetzetev, only good. She'ein le Yetzirah. Why? Because the tzaddik doesn't have a Yetzirah. He killed it by fasting. David HaMelech says in Tillim, Libi cholol bekirbi. My heart is hollow within me. And the Gemara says in Brachas, that Gemara that I is quoting, what does it mean? It means David HaMelech says, I have no Yetzer Hara. Later on, the Alter Rebbe will explain in Tanya, where's the Yetzer Hara? In the heart. The Yetzer Tov primarily is in the head. The Yetzer Hara is primarily in the heart. So David HaMelech comes along and says, my heart is hollow within me, meaning I have no Yetzer Hara. Why? He killed it. David HaMelech killed it by fasting. And as we mentioned last week, the Rebbe brings down many times, David HaMelech not only killed his Yetzer Hara, that was in the earlier stages. David HaMelech was a Tzadik Gomer. Tzadik Gomer is not only one that kills the Yetzer Hara, but actually transforms the Yetzer Hara to Yetzer Tov. So David HaMelech initially says, my heart is hollow within me. The Gemara says he had no Yetzer Hara. He killed it by fasting. But eventually, even David HaMelech reached the level of Tzadik Gomer, that he had no Yetzer. He not only killed it, he transformed it to Yetzer Tov. And he says, somebody that didn't reach this level of killing the Yetzer Hara, even though he might have more mitzvahs than sins, he can have 95% mitzvahs, 5% sins. He's not at all, he's not even a Beinoni. He's definitely not the level of the Tzadik. Therefore, the Gemara said, we'll finish up with this. In the Medrash, Hashem foresaw that the tzaddikim throughout all generations are going to be very few. The true definition of a tzaddik kills the Yetzer Hara, transforms it, is going to be very few. Amad v'shaslam b'chol dar v'dar. Hashem planted them in every generation. He spread them out. Shouldn't be all in one generation, none in. To the extent tzaddik is seidelam, like it says in the pasuk, it's possible that a generation will have one tzaddik per generation. Okay, so what we learned today basically is we know what a Beinoni is not. It's not 50-50. And we know a tzaddik is one that killed the Yetzer Hara, or a higher level transformed the Yetzer Hara to the Yetzer Tov. Okay, so again, tonight's class was sponsored by Moshe Mataban in memory of his mother's yahrzeit, who was Malka Bas Yitzchak. Neshama should have an aliyah. If anybody ever wants to sponsor classes, please let me know. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, we're going to have a Farbrengen in honor of Pesach Sheni, 8 o'clock on Zoom. Monday night, which is normally the Parsha class, we're going to have a class in Lag Ba'omer discussing insights and deeper meanings of Lag Ba'omer. So everybody is welcome to come, tell your friends about it. And the main thing, everybody should have a good week. You mentioned David Maidav and Count Sfira. Don't forget, if you didn't do Kiddush Levana, I believe tonight's the last day for Kiddush Levana. Have a great week, and everybody should be healthy.
Or Rabbi, about the Sheni.
What?
About the Pesach Sheni.
Pesach Sheni, it's Friday. Thursday at Mincha, you say Tachnun, but Friday for Shachris, you don't say Tachnun. And the custom is to eat matzah Friday afternoon and Friday night also.
The
Thank you
bracha
very
is Hamotzi, Rabbi?
Yeah.
One more question. When you was mentioning about the clothing, the shoes, you have to put the right and then the left and take off the...
You're right, I didn't mention that, but you're right. Put on the right, put on the left, tie the left. And
Close up.
You're right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody have a good night.
Good night.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Take care. But yeah.
Hi, Rabbi Shusterman. A question from last class regarding Emor, the Eish Mayim Ruach.
Yes.
You also bring up Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. How do those three relate to the Eish Mayim and Ruach?
My question.
Mayim is actually chesed. Kindness means I give to you, right? I help you out. That means I'm at a higher level than you are. I'm able to help you. Fire is gvura, that goes up. So Torah is called chesed. Torah is chesed al l'sheinu, we say in Eishes Chayil. Avodah, the burning of karbanis, or tefillah, is lower going up. The person refining themselves to become closer to Hashem, that's fire, which goes up. And Gemilas Chasadim is both together. So Ruach is Gemilas Chasadim.
Got it. And then for the letter Tuf, that you said it pretty quickly. You said just the last letter of the Aleph
As
Bet.
in Kabbalah, that Tuf is the last letter of the Aleph Beis, therefore it represents Af, or dirt, which is the lowest level, the lowest level.
Is there a word that starts with the letter Tuf, or just by the fact that it's the last letter?
Kabbalah says just by the fact that it's the last letter.
Thank you very much.
Okay? Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Laila Tov.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.